Hello everyone, I'm Alan Hyde and welcome to BARC'ing Mad, the official podcast of the British Automobile Racing Club. Every 2 weeks you can join us for some full throttle motorsport chat where we delve into the latest news and results both inside and outside the club, as well as talking to some of the biggest names in the sport along the way. And now we've got another fantastic episode to bring you today, but before we offer up a sneak peek of what's to come, I think it's about time I introduce my BARC'ing Mad co-host, Ian Waterhouse. How are you? Grinning Ian Waterhouse.
It's just every time you say that, Alan, it just brings a smile to my face. And why wouldn't it as well? Because what a glorious week we're having. What have you been up to, Alan? Tell me a story.
Well, I mowed the lawn. That was quite nice. Summer arrived at last.
I was hoping for something a little bit more entertaining than that.
Well, it was entertaining for me. It was summer. We haven't had summer, have we? I think we had a couple of weeks in June, and that was it. So where have I been? Donington Park for touring cars, which we discussed on the last episode of BTCC, and the huge revelation that being back on the Grand Prix circuit added a huge amount to the racing. It was a fantastic weekend. Absolutely loved it, and so did the crowd. We had a massive crowd, queues all the way back to the M1 junction to get into the circuit first thing in the morning. So a big success. Changeable weather, loads of drama as ever. We'll talk about it later on. And then last weekend, actually, I was doing all things Porsche and did a little bit with Harry Foster and the championship leader in the Porsche Carrera Cup, Adam Smalley, down at the Festival of Porsche at Brands Hatch last Sunday. So, busy time, but I think the headline story that we've got, Ian, is that we've got summer back on the radar.
We have got summer back on the radar, which has led me to the golf course more than once in the last couple of weeks. I haven't actually been motorsport bound over the last since the last podcast.
No, you've been footying, haven't you?
I've been doing a lot of football, but it's also given me time to go through some of the comments that we've been getting in on the BARC'ing Mad podcast at the BARC's YouTube channel. So if you do want to drop us a comment, please do. And one in particular got me very, very excited from episode 6 last time out. I won't say who it is.
I'm quite nervy about this.
No, don't worry. This person said this, and they said, anything Ian says is now gospel. Great hair, by the way. Oh. So I've decided not to cut my hair in the last 2 weeks as well. So we do look at the comments, by the way. Some very nice comments coming in. A lot of people enjoying the podcast as well, Alan, which is always nice to see, isn't it?
It is nice. Yeah, lots of people have been coming up at race meetings and saying that they're enjoying the podcast, which is absolutely fantastic. I, too, have been enthralled by your hair because although cameras these days are widescreen, at some stage this season we're going to need tall screen as well. So we're going to be back to a 4-3 dimension screen before too long because you're going to be out of frame.
Maybe I shouldn't cut it again.
Out of frame.
I won't cut it again till the end of the year then, and we'll just see how high I can get it.
Yeah. What a challenge that is. Now, as I mentioned, we've got another brilliant episode on the way. Our first guest, who we'll be introducing very shortly, will be chatting to us about some of the biggest topics in world motorsport. And then we'll be joined by the top 2 in the championship, in the ROKiT F4 British Championship, Sharp and Will Macintyre, ahead of what will be a thrilling title showdown next month at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit.
Oh, a thriller. It is going to be an absolute thriller. I'm looking forward to talking to those two chaps. Yeah, it is going to be a cracking episode, that's for sure. But before we get to all that, it is time to tell you about our brilliant partners, BP Fleet Solutions UK. Now, if you're a member of the BARC, you can invest less on fuel and more on winning, courtesy of the BP Plus Fuel and Charge Card, giving members and podcast listeners like you exclusive discounts on fuel. The BP Plus Fuel and Charge Card can be used at 3,400 locations, offering 6p per litre off both standard and ultimate grade fuels at 1,200 UK fuel stations. There are also significant savings to be made on electric charging too.
And the BP Plus Fuel and Charge Card can be used by anyone. And the collaboration with the BARC marks a significant milestone in providing benefits to racing drivers, teams and their associated businesses.
Yeah, if you are a BARC member, you can save money on your fuel. Head to www.bp.com/BARC. That's BARC. If you need any help or information, hit the callback button on the website, and a member of the BP Fleet Solution UK team will contact you. For those of you that are not a member of the BARC yet, and why are you not a member yet, but still want to receive great rates on fuel and charging, head over to applynow.bpplus.co.uk.
You know, when you put things off, you think, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. And you carry it over on your calendar, and you carry it over on your calendar. I have just about half an hour ago finished applying for my BP card. Just done it.
I'll let you on a little secret. I haven't done mine yet.
No, well, you need to crack on, son. It's ever so easy. Now, with all of that done, I think it's about time we got stuck into some motorsport chat, because this is the BARC'ing Mad podcast. It's time to welcome our first guest onto today's podcast, and I'm delighted to say that it's a familiar face that joins us, making his second appearance of the series on BARC'ing Mad. It's only the editor of Motorsport News, Matt James. You all right, Matty?
Yes, I am, Al. Hello, Al. Hello, Ian.
Hello, Matt. It's good to see you. We need to get caps, don't we, for returning guests? This is you could have 2 caps now.
What do you get for a hat trick?
Good question. We need to think on that. Actually, somebody can tell us in the comments. What do you think? What should people get for 3 appearances on the BARC'ing Mad podcast? It's got to be something good, though, hasn't it?
You could have a lengthy conversation with Ian, because Ian also covers football, and we've discovered today that he's about to cover a match for Truro.
When? Tonight?
Saturday. I'm doing the Havant v Truro game for National League.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, sadly, I will be at the Brisker F1 World Final this weekend. But otherwise, I would be there.
Well, next time.
Okay. Good.
There aren't many Truro fans in the country, so it's nice to
I wasn't sure if you were being serious, Ali, when you were saying...
I was being absolutely serious
when you were saying Matt's a big Truro fan. I thought, is he having me on? Is he going to set me up for a fail here? But fair enough.
He's a turncoat fan, really, Ian, because he was a Gillingham supporter, Gillingham in Kent, for many, many years, and then he dropped them just like they were a hot brick, and decided
quite a distance between Truro and Gillingham.
Yeah, I saw the light, Al. That's what happened.
You most certainly did. We need to talk about motorsport, Matt, not football. And can we start with the BTCC, because it has been a quite unique season this season. Normally at this point, we've got 2 meetings left to go. We've got Silverstone, we've got Brands Hatch. It's kind of obvious who the championship protagonists are going to be going into the final meeting of the year. But Ash Sutton and Napa Racing and the Ford Focus this year have been so incredibly good. All the other drivers say, well, we just can't do anything about him. He's on another level. And we've got this potential that Ash could actually claim the title before the final meeting of the year, which is, for goodness knows how many years, it's been unheard of, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you called it finals day at Brands Hatch. It might not be finals day. There might not be protagonists going into Kent, because he, as you say, right, he could wrap it up at Silverstone Ash. That's not happened for, by my reckoning, at least 15 years since Giovinazzi did it at Silverstone, which is unheard of in the modern day. You've got to hand it to Ash and the team. They were the ones that went out and did most of the pre-season mileage. They were up and down at Croft and all over the country doing stuff when they could. He's got a brilliant allegiance with his engineer, Tony Carosa, which has helped. You know, that's absolutely crucial in the modern day British Touring Car Championship. It's almost the black art. You know, if you look at all the title winners, it's a strong connection with their engineers that helps. And the thing I always say about Ash, there is no flaw in his driving. And particularly this year, he's ramped up his qualifying statistics with a bunch of pole positions too. He's great in the wet. You know, he's great under pressure. He doesn't make unforced mistakes, and we've seen a few of those from some of the top names that you might not have expected. He can overtake fantastically. You know, he knows how to build a points advantage. He's learned from previous campaigns where he's maybe blotted his copybook with I remember an incident at Croft in the middle of one year when he was quite well ahead in the points, and that brought him back into reach of the others. And I think he's learned, you know, it's like poker, when to hold them and when to fold them. And I think he knows that game really well now. And he's put all that together with the expert, engineering prowess and the finances behind the NAPA Racing UK team. And this is the result of it. I mean, even he said at the start of this year, there's more for him to learn. And he'd actually gone back through the 2022 campaign and looked at how Tom Ingram had approached things and maybe taken a few lessons from Tom. Which is funny because Tom said after Donington that he's learning things from Ash as well. So they're learning from each other, two very good drivers. But I could think it's just given Ash that extra bit of impetus he needs. And what is it, 9 wins now? It's something ridiculous. It's the modern day marvel, really.
A new record in the NGTC era. But I mean, in fairness, Ash said to me some years ago, I'm here to win more titles than anyone else. I'm here to break more records than anybody else. And then when I've done that, I'll work out what I'm doing next. But that's the job of the day, if you like.
Well, he's never let you down on anything he said. He's always said, I'll be a winner in my first season. He was. He's always said, I'm going to win the Independence Trophy. He did. I'm going to win the overall championship. I did. And if you think about it, do you remember when he started off with the Subaru team, he got the nickname Crashly because he was driving just a little bit over the limit as he was trying to find those limits. He got to grips with them very, very quickly. And he delivers on everything he says. And, it's incredible to think, given his age, how far he's come. It takes a lot of these. He's overtaken, some of the series greats in terms of overall race wins now. And it took them decades to do it. And you still feel like, when you look at Ash, he's still at the start of his career, don't you?
How old is he? How old is Ash? Do we know?
26, 7, something like that.
He's got a long time left. A long time, hasn't he?
Very much. Very much.
He became a father this year, Matt. And I think
Al, you're frantically trying to look up how old he is.
I'm not going to look up how old he is. But what I was going to say, Matt, was he became a dad this year, and it has had an effect on him as far as I've seen. He feels more when I interview him. He's just a joy to interview. He's so forthcoming with his thoughts on what's just happened out on circuit, his appreciation of everything over the course of a race weekend. Fatherhood has suited him well, I think.
Yeah, him and Aaron Taylor-Smith also became a dad this year, but yeah, there is the old adage that having a kid makes you a couple of tenths a lap slower because you've got more responsibilities and more to think about. But a lot of the drivers actually say, well, it makes you a couple of tenths quicker because you're more hungry to succeed for your family. You've got to feather the nest, work for them, and be employed. So it can work in both ways. But super chilled Ash is also super fast this year.
Now, Matt, we'll stick with the TOCA theme show because Paddock Chat is starting to build around the TOCA Junior series. It was reported it's going to launch in 2025. What have you heard about this, and how do you see it fitting in the UK motorsport landscape?
It's going to be a fantastic thing when it comes because you can guarantee with Alan Gow in the background of it that no stone will be left unturned in making sure it's absolutely proper. I think the Junior Championship on the BTCC package is something that's really been missed because one of the great things about the BTCC package that we've had in previous seasons is you can watch drivers climb from 13, 14 years old all the way up through, and some of the lucky ones, Tingram being an example, make it to the top level. There's a need for it on the TOCA package. Ginetta Juniors has obviously, had that post on the TOCA layout for such a long time, and that's gone off to pastures new. It's still successful, but there's nothing like the profile you can get from the BTCC package. And like I say, it gives drivers access to that ladder. The actual precise format of it, I still don't know anything about exactly what it's going to look like. However, it is amusing that a lot of the drivers I've spoken to that are looking to come into motorsport are already talking about it. So it's something that doesn't exist, and the concept isn't there. So the hardware isn't there, but the concept is something that's already appealed to people.
And the teams are already looking into it as well, aren't they? They're asking the questions. They want to know. They want to make their plans for 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, completely.
Let's talk about the BARC, Matt, here on the BARC'ing Mad podcast. You like a headline, don't you? What do you think of our title, the BARC'ing Mad podcast? Clever, isn't it?
It's very good, yeah. I enjoy it very much.
Would you have been proud of that?
I would have, although, it pains me to put a hyphen between the...
I knew you'd hate the hyphen. I knew you, because
nothing is missing.
I know.
Right
No, so, Caterham recently celebrated its 50th anniversary with a pretty momentous race weekend at Donington Park, which included a pretty packed race schedule, parades, and much, much more as well. Donington Park's been busy, hasn't it?
That meeting at Donington was absolutely rammed, yeah, with entries and a lot of interest around it. And the great thing about it was that most of the championships that raced there, most of the main championships that raced there, came down to the championship finale at that very meeting. We were talking about BTCC being decided early, but all of the Caterhams seemed to save up their best till last. And we had a host of new champions being decided. Fantastic racing. Some competitive and hard fought racing, as I'm sure the barriers will attest to afterwards. But yeah, it was a very strong meeting, and we walked away with all these champions crowns. A great thing to do.
Now, Matt, we have to talk about Formula One, of course.
Okay.
The Italian Grand Prix, Monza. We can't ignore Max Verstappen, 10 wins in a row, but for 14 laps or so, it looked like we might have a Ferrari on the top step. But was it always inevitable that Verstappen was going to come through?
Yeah, I absolutely think it was. But what always stuns me about Ferrari is that they can all of a sudden bolt the car together properly when it gets to Italy.
Turn it on for Monza. I know.
Yeah, turn it on for Monza. But they, when they seem to, they find a couple of tenths here and there. I actually thought it was a great race before that, and it was even a great race after Max had got the lead. If you looked at positions 2 down to 8, it was brilliant. Mainly thanks to Ferrari and McLaren drivers trying to smash into each other. But yeah, so it was a great race. Monza's a great place to have it. But Max is, as we said about Ash Sutton, he's just on a different level. And I feel desperately sorry for Sergio Perez being under pressure in the second Red Bull. So I know the pressure's relaxed a little bit now. But who else could get in that car and get anywhere near Max? Not even Charles Leclerc or Lewis, I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I asked you last time actually whether we think Red Bull are going to win every race, and I think this was a bit earlier in the season, and we said probably not. There's a lot that can go wrong, but we're getting closer now to the end. Are they going to do it? Are they going to win every race?
Yeah, I think I said no before, but I might have changed my mind now. But the thing about Formula One is now, the feel of the season. Intuitively, you feel that we're coming towards the end of the season, but there's still a hell of a long way to go. We've left Europe now, but we've got America, Brazil, Singapore, Mexico, Abu Dhabi, loads and loads, and Las Vegas. There's just so much more to go in a Grand Prix season, which finishes barely before drivers have time to wrap up their Christmas presents now.
I've got a thought on this, Matt. I've given this considerable thought. If he were to wrap up the championship in the early, they should draw a line. That's the end of the season, and now we've got the Winter Series, and it's a whole new championship for the remaining meetings of the year.
But Verstappen will still win, though, Alan. Done.
He will still win, but there's still something to go for.
No, I think every team should be allowed to run in the Winter Series, but use their test or reserve driver rather than their main drivers. Give the main drivers the rest of the winter off, and give the young guys a chance to learn in a race environment.
I think we've chanced upon a good idea here.
There you go.
I think I'll copyright that quickly if I was you.
Can we do that in the BTCC if it finishes early as well? If it gets decided at Silverstone, can we have a sort of a Winter Series round at Brands?
Well, Mr. Gow's always been terribly interested in running a Winter Series every time you've mentioned it to him.
He hasn't, let's be honest.
No, you touched on there, talking about testing reserve drivers. What have you made of Liam Lawson, who stepped into Ricciardo's, obviously, after injuring himself? Have you been suitably impressed with him? Do you think Red Bull have got something to think about now this winter?
It's so hard to know, isn't it? He's only done 2 races. Yes, he's been not far away from Yuki Tsunoda, but he hasn't dominated him to any degree. Finished kind of outside the points, although narrowly outside the points in the last races. He's done a good job, but when you look at these young drivers that have been prepared and used sims for so long and done so much development work, you'd expect them actually to hit the ground running. It's not like in the old days where the driver came straight up from F3 and didn't have any idea what an F1 car would be like. These guys are really well prepared. But the example I would look at is Nick de Vries, who actually occupied that car earlier on in the year. Fantastic at Monza last year for the Williams, finished highly in the points, super highly rated driver and really, really quick. Has a bum 5 or 6 races at the start of the year and he's turfed out. So, it's too early to make a judgment on Liam Lawson, but you just hope that someone takes a longer view on these young drivers, because you're ending up with drivers on the scrap heap, well, effectively on the scrap heap at the age of 21, which is just absolutely heartbreaking for them. They've had one chance at it and they failed, and they never get another one, and they're super talented guys,
Well, one driver who's not on the scrap heap, Lewis Hamilton, just signed a 2-year contract, of course, with Mercedes. Is that can they get back, and will they do it in 2 years?
Yes, they can get back. I'm not sure they can do it in 2 years. It might take to the end of those 2 years for them to actually rein in Red Bulls at the end. I think what Formula One is hanging out for now is the rule reset in 2026. Everyone's kind of, how much effort do you put into? I know everyone talks about developing next year's car when this year's kind of written off. But getting towards this set of rules, when do you sort of write off developing this concept of car and think about what you're going to do with the new power plant when the new rules come in 2026? And maybe, this deal will take Lewis virtually up to the end of that period before the new rules come into place. Will he stay on even longer than that? I don't know. He's always said that there's other things he wants to do. I feel if the car is good, that there's still a championship in him, but I think it would only be one more.
And we have done something for this section previously, Matt, with David Whedon from the BARC. We have asked him to pick his dream team, if you like, to compete in any championship. So we'd like to do the same to you. So we need a team principal, and what do we say? In two drivers.
Yeah. So it's your dream team, basically. Yeah, team principal, 2 drivers. I mean, it can be in any championship. It doesn't have to be in Formula One. David Whedon chose the championship to be Formula One, but it doesn't have to be. It could be touring cars. It could be Formula E. It could be Extreme E. It could be anything you like, really.
Well, I take it they've got to be current drivers.
No, any drivers ever.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Matt's a proper journo. He has to write it down in shorthand before he answers the question.
I am writing it.
Well, it's because we're going to quote him and hold him accountable to this forever.
Yeah, well,
so you've got to get it right.
Okay, this is going to be the most random answer you've ever had.
Like it.
Okay.
But the championship I'd like to run the 2-car team in is the TVR Tuscan Challenge.
Yeah, no, that doesn't surprise me. Yep.
I'd like that to be worked out again. The team manager I'd like to employ to operate my team for me would be Ian Harrison, the former boss of Triple Eight Race Engineering, the guy that won many multiple British touring car championships, and a jolly nice fellow. And my 2 drivers would be Carl Jones and Ian McKellar. So, like I said, that's that. I think I'm probably the only person that will mention any of those things when you ask that question again.
Funnily enough, we haven't been asked it before.
Amazed.
No. So Carl Jones was in action a couple of weeks ago at the Super Touring meeting at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, well, absolute hero of mine, and I sort of he was the guy I had pictures of on my bedroom wall when I was a kid, and used to go and get his autograph when he was doing the Union Royal Production Saloon and the Monroe Park Production Saloon Championships in 1986 and 1987. I used to go and get his autograph and stick it on my bedroom wall. So yeah, big fan of Carl's, always have been.
No, he's a really nice guy. Yeah, really good guy. And what about Ian McKellar Jr.? What's he doing these days, Matty?
Sort of, he lives in Estonia, I think it is, or Latvia or somewhere. He's given up racing completely.
Wow, didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that sorted out the dream team. We need to get ourselves back on track with global motorsport, Ian.
We certainly do. And one thing, I just briefly mentioned it, actually, Extreme E. It has been announced that a hydrogen-powered off-road series will debut in 2025, Matt.
Yeah, it's interesting, these sort of hybrid electric championships. What I think the trailblazers really in all of this have been the ACO at Le Mans, because what they've done is they've said they've got a zero emissions class, which I think is what every championship needs to do. Then it encourages manufacturers to look at alternative solutions, because the landscape for zero emissions vehicles is still quite fluid at the moment. We're not really sure how they're going to do it. Could be hydrogen, could be full electric, whatever. So if you make the class structure, which is something Extreme E could do by having the existing cars alongside any hydrogen or alternatively powered cars, make it a zero emissions championship. Up to the manufacturers how you get there. Choose whichever technology you want, and that would encourage the manufacturers to then, brag about what they're doing. I mean, it's something that the World Rally Championship could do as well, which would give manufacturers more of a sort of a marketplace. So, Extreme E's going down that route. It's very good, but I just think there's a wider picture and a wider objective that they could try and reach here, which would actually be a benefit to everybody involved.
Well, I think we've just about covered all of it now, Matty. Thank you very much indeed for being a great guest as ever. Have you changed your mind about your choice of corners for our dream circuit? Because we've already put this plan into operation. You're absolutely fine with that?
Yeah. Could I have a sample of some of other people's nominations, please, for those corners? Do you know?
Yeah. So, no, we can't.
Oh, all right.
Instantly, I'm thinking back to a couple of weeks ago. We had Duffer's Dip suggested. I'm sure that would be. Oh, that was you, was it?
Oh, okay.
We've had Church.
Okay.
I'm trying to think where else we've had. We had the swimming pool. Monaco seems to be quite.
Someone said the corkscrew, yeah.
I don't think anybody said the corkscrew yet. No, I don't think anybody said Eau Rouge. We've got the chicane at Poe.
Yeah.
Maggots and Beckett's at Silverstone.
Is someone going to attempt to draw this circuit out in a map at the end of
We're going to do that. That's what we're going to do at the end of the season. Yeah, it's going to be long.
It's a bit more complicated than that, Matt. It's being computer generated. So this circuit is being sort of put together, and then we're going to make it into a massive scale electric track at the end of the year.
So are we going to have a little straight in between each corner, though? Just a little straight in between each.
This is potentially a feature for Motorsport News, with BARC'ing Mad heavily involved in the development of this circuit.
It'll be a double-page spread because it's becoming quite a long circuit, I'm afraid. So it'll be a pull-out for your bedroom wall.
Going to make a great karting circuit.
Well, you should throw the Mulsanne straight in there, just for
What, a couple of times? Yeah, I think we probably need it. Yeah, that's a very good shout. That needs to go in. So Matt gets 2 chances at this. Very good. Mulsanne straights. There we go. Perfect.
Cool.
Matt, we're done. Thank you very much indeed. The editor of
Motorsport
News and friend of the podcast here on the BARC'ing Mad podcast.
We'll have you on for your hat trick next time.
Okay, I look forward to
that. and we'll get you a cap. Don't you worry about that. Matt James, everybody, here on BARC'ing Mad.
Right then, everybody, let's switch gears and introduce 2 people that have been at the very top of their game this year. Yes, they're the top 2 in the ROKiT F4 British Championship, certified by the FIA, and heading into next month's season finale at Brands Hatch. Get this, they're separated by just a single point. Yes, 1 point. That is it. Welcome to the BARC'ing Mad podcast, Louis Sharp and Will Macintyre. What a treat it is to have you guys here. And Louis, let's start with you. You guys seem quite friendly. Are you actually good mates, despite the title being so close?
Yeah, no, we are good mates. To be fair, it's been quite good this year. Pretty much everyone on the F4 grid does get along quite well. So it's nice to have. It's nice to be able to talk to people. Obviously, we are competitors. We are trying to beat each other. But no, it's still nice to be friends off the track. But saying that, as soon as the helmet's on, as soon as the race has started, I feel like all that stuff kind of just goes away, and then it doesn't really matter who you are. You want to beat them. But off the track and outside of racing, we are good friends.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it, doesn't it? And Will, you've sort of had you've had 2 wins, but a lot of second places heading up to the season finale at Brands Hatch. Is that something you want to change a little bit? You want more top steps at the podium, right?
Yeah, well, obviously, second has sort of seemed my position so far this year in the championship, and realistically, going into the last round, yeah, definitely we need to sort of beat Louis in all the races and gain as much of a point advantage as possible. And I think with how fast he's been all year, and I think he's going to be really, really confident and fast at Brands. So realistically, I feel like if I'm not P1, I feel like Louis will probably be the man in front of me for this last round. So, you know, hopefully a couple more first places in the first and third race, and maybe a last to first in reverse grid will always be amazing.
You never know. You never know. I mean, the interesting thing, and it's quite difficult for you as drivers. I'll go with Will first of all, because you had during the break in the season for the BTCC, you went out on your own and had a meeting on the Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone. So for that reason, you guys aren't doing the Silverstone round of the touring cars in a couple of weeks. So you've got this huge, great long gap, haven't you, before the final meeting at Brands Hatch? 7 weeks or something?
Yeah, quite a bit of a gap. I think we were on track last week at Brands, all of the F4 just to prepare for the last round, and now we've got a huge gap till the race weekend. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what different people are doing. I think you know, some drivers are already going to be testing for what they're going to do next year, and you know. Me and Louis are just, well, from what I know, are just full focused on trying to beat each other in this championship.
So, Louis, can I ask then, what does happen over the next 4 weeks then? Because, you know, it's the beginning of October, isn't it, the next race? So what actually happens then? Or what's the plan in September? Are you testing? Do you do simulation work? What do you do?
I guess for me at the moment, all my focus is on finishing this last round of the championship. Obviously, we are getting to the time where discussion for next year starts to creep in. And I'm hoping we'll be moving onwards from F4. So it's just about. I mean, there's a bit of chat going on about what we do next year, but apart from that, I'm just fully focused on closing out the championship. Obviously, we do have a lot of time off, so it's to be honest, it's going to be quite boring, really, because I don't really do a lot. I don't go to school in the UK, so when I'm not racing, I am quite bored. So I think for me, these next few weeks will just be about training as much as possible, doing a bit of simulator work just with myself and with the team, and just making sure that I'm fully prepared. So when we do come to the last round, I'm ready to just give it everything and hopefully end off the season on a high.
Well, there are 6 other BARC'ing Mad podcasts you could go listen to whilst you're waiting around, Louis.
Maybe I have to check them out.
So, Louis, were you and the family already located here in the UK before you started racing in the UK, or did you move over here as a family in order to race?
So I was born in the UK, but I've lived in New Zealand since I was 2, so I don't really remember much about living in the UK. So I grew up, did all most of my childhood in New Zealand. Started racing in New Zealand, and then it wasn't until last year me and my dad decided to move over to the UK to kind of make this dream of hopefully becoming a Formula One driver happen. So unfortunately, my mum and my sister are still in New Zealand, so I only get to see them at the end of the season when I go back. So it's quite tough not seeing them, and also all my friends are in New Zealand as well. So I do miss them, but no, I guess as a family we've had to sacrifice a lot to make this happen. But if I want to achieve my dream, I need to be in the UK.
I think one of the strengths of the British F4 Championship this year has been that it is such an international grid, Louis.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure how many exactly the different nations there are, but I assume there's more than 10. So yeah, although it is a British Championship, there is a lot of people that have made a similar sacrifice to me to come over from different places of the world. But even for the likes of Will, who are located here, I guess it's still pretty tough. We're still away from home a lot of the time, so I guess everyone really has to make that same sacrifice.
Yeah. Now, Will, we obviously know you're obviously all very young, but where did the love for motorsport really start for you? Where what was it at the UK circuits as a kid? Did your family take you to watch motorsport? Where did you get the bug?
Just simply watching TV. You know, my parents, since when I was young, were watching the news, and you know, they'd always come up with the right here, the sports results. You know, Sebastian Vettel won his 9th race in a row. Yeah. I distinctly remember the Red Bull dominance, and that was sort of when I started getting interested into motorsport, really. So I was about 5-6 years old when I first sort of heard of it and wanted to start karting. So, age of 8 started, got my first go-kart, and since then, pretty much most weekends sort of going out. Well, that was until Donington. Now I've got a long 7-week break, but it's been since about 8 years old, just watching Formula One and just watching stuff on the TV.
Can I ask you, Will, about Donington and what your thoughts were at the end of the weekend?
Not a great weekend in all. I think overall, well, I had a really good last 2 races, and then I think Saturday was probably one of the worst days in my racing career, to be honest.
Most trying days, yeah.
I think I made a mistake in qualifying. Obviously, put the car in the gravel, which obviously, and I was pushing to the max, because I feel like Donington wasn't exactly my strongest track. So it was one of them where I had to really be on the limit, and especially with how close me and Louis are in the championship, so I really needed to sort of try and get an edge out of him that weekend, and obviously made the mistake, and from then on the weekend was sort of in the bin. We just had to damage limitation really from race 1, which was okay, and then race 2 I had a collision with my teammate as well, so that didn't go too well. Obviously made a mistake and lost a position to Louis as well, which really didn't help. So Saturday was horrific, and then the Sunday was pretty good.
So that over the next 7 weeks, over the next 7 weeks, that's what you've got to take with you, the fact that those races went well, because you've got to build the impetus running into what essentially is just 3 races at the end of the season to decide everything. So you can't focus on the negatives, can you, over the next 7 weeks? You've got to focus on the positives, how you finish the weekend at Donington. And for us as spectators, it has given us a thrilling showdown in what has been a fantastic season.
Yeah, it's all for publicity. Obviously done it all in no. I think just it was something you've got to learn from the mistakes, and obviously you got to take with you, and you got to practice on for future rounds, and you just got to make sure it doesn't happen again. But that's, as a young driver, and me and Louis are sure we've had multiple times this year where we could have done something better, and just going into the next round, we take that on board, and it's going to be difficult because we're going to it's 1 point between us into the final round, so all the cards are going to be on the table, and we're both going to be pushing at 120%, 110%. So it's just going to be one of them where you just got to learn from your mistakes. And we had some positive results on the Sunday, but for me, I just got to look and say, well, I shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. So
I quite like that, Will. It's a good attitude to have, isn't it? Louis, when it's going great, obviously it's going great. You've got 5 wins this season. It's obviously gone very well. But when it doesn't go your way, how do you deal with it? If you've had a bad Saturday, for example, how do you dwell on it? Do you just get with the team, a good support network, talk about it, and then just move on? Because other sports stars, Tiger Woods has got his 10-second rule. If he's played a bad shot, he counts to 10 and walks off, and it's forgotten about. How do you do that as a race driver?
To be honest, it can be very tough. I mean, motorsport, it's obviously it's a great sport, but there's many highs, but there's also probably more lows as well. So it can be tough, especially with how close it's been this year. Like, it's so easy to just be off by just a little bit. Like, you could make a small mistake on a qualifying lap, and then that's your weekend over. So it's tough, but I think you gotta look at it, you gotta reflect on it, because you need to learn from it. But once you've done that, you kind of just gotta put it past you and just move on and focus on the next race or the next weekend. So no, it can definitely be tough. And obviously there's been many times over the season where maybe something hasn't gone my way or I've made a mistake and I've been pretty frustrated with myself. But no, you gotta learn from it is the main thing. But you gotta just not dwell on it too much, because if you think about it too much, then you'll end up making the same mistake again.
And those wins make it worthwhile, boys. When you take that checkered flag, I bet it's some feeling, right, Will?
I don't really know, to be honest. I haven't got too many yet. That's a question.
You see, the thing that I've learned over the course of this year, Ian, is Will has a very dry sense of humour, and sometimes his answers will take you by surprise. Can I ask about sacrifices that families have made in order to go along this career of being a racing driver? And Louis, you've already mentioned that the family have up sticks and come back over to the UK. You've left half of your family over in New Zealand on the other side of the world. What else has the family had to do in order to support your racing, if you like?
Yeah, there's been a lot. Luckily, I am quite lucky. I do have a lot of family in the UK. So like at the moment I actually live with my auntie and uncle. So I've been staying with them for the last year or two. But no, yeah, like I said, my mum and my sister and my dog. My dog's probably the one I miss the most, to be honest. He's still in New Zealand.
What's he called? What's he called, Louis? What's the dog called?
He's actually called Senna. I've named him after Ayrton Senna.
Wow,
nice.
But no. So he's probably I miss him a lot. But to be honest, my sister still she FaceTimes me and she shows me my dog from time and time again. So it's quite good. But no, for example, like my dad, he's had to stop work really because when we first came over to the UK, he was still working. But because he was still working for his company back in New Zealand, he was working all throughout the night because obviously it's a 12-hour time difference. So he's had to give that up. So now he's I guess his job is to manage me. So it's it's obviously a good thing, but it also means he's I never get a break from him really. So we do get on each other's nerves a little bit. But no, he's pretty supportive. But he's like I said, he sacrificed a lot to get me here. So I'm really thankful for what he's done for me.
So does that mean that Senna is your all-time racing hero, not the dog, the racing driver?
I think so. Obviously, I was never alive to watch him race, but from what I've seen, he seemed like a pretty special person, a very, very good racing driver. The other person is probably Sebastian Vettel. When I think Will mentioned it earlier, but when I first kind of got into motorsport, he was dominating Formula One. So it was kind of like that. I think it was probably about 2012, like kind of that era. So yeah, as a young lad starting out in karting, and obviously watching Formula One, I looked up to whoever was the best. And yeah, he won 4 championships in a row. So he was definitely the best at that time. So so he's been my other hero.
He's also a fantastic human being.
He is. He really is.
Very, very. He does a lot of good stuff, especially for not only the motorsport community, but also for a lot of other people.
I mean, I can't speak for you two guys, but you've both mentioned their sort of inspirations. Both said Sebastian Vettel. Of course, you said Senna. We can't ignore the Formula One connection there. Is that the ultimate goal for both of you? We'll start with you, but is that Formula One? That's the target.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the only reason I'm racing is to have fun, and that's what I want to do. But realistically, what I want to do to have fun for me is to win races and win championships, and get to the highest level, and drive a Formula One car, which sounds a lot of fun. So yeah, I just want to sort of win races in a Formula One car, and win world championships, and think. That's exactly.
You're pretty chilled out, aren't you, Will? You're pretty relaxed. You're a pretty chilled guy.
Just want to have fun, like you only live once. Life, you need to enjoy it all. Just chill and have fun. That's it.
So we could be talking in a few years' time. One point in the Formula One World Championship separating you two. That would be something, wouldn't it, Louis?
That would be pretty cool. As long as I'm the one that's 1 point ahead, then I'm happy. But no, yeah, that would I think that would be pretty special.
Can we make sure that I will have wins next time? So it's a bit, you know, because you've had like a bit more enjoyment.
To be fair, I think you've had more podiums than me though, so you've gotten more trophies.
Yeah, but the amount of times that you've second on the podium, mate, it's a bit like.
That is true.
Consistency across the season is what wins championships, you know, accumulating those points over the year. Can I just ask you, Will, about the setup that you've got in the background, because you've put us all to shame with what you've got going on there. Is that for fun, or is that for serious preparation for a race weekend?
Mostly for fun. I'm not going to lie to you. I think there's definitely a little bit of preparation, but most of the time the preparation turns into going flat out into the pit wall. So yeah, it is fun, but at the same time, it is impossible to, you know, it is impossible to take it too seriously.
Is this gaming every night? Is this competing against people every night, or is it not quite an addiction to that level?
Yeah, so I'm not sure you heard of this, but it's the I mostly do the iRacing thing, which Max Verstappen pretty much spends his life on as well. So you know, literally whenever I'm home, I just sit on this, and I pretty much never leave my room. So yeah. I think Louis can relate.
Are you a gamer too, Louis? Are you a gamer as well? Do you have a sort of sim rig?
Yeah, I do. I do have a setup. I probably don't play it as much as Will, to be honest, because I get too frustrated because I end up going into a race and I get taken out from the lead, so I end up just like I rage too much, to be honest. So it's I do play it, and it is fun. Obviously playing with my mates, obviously other drivers, but also a few of my mates back in New Zealand. They play iRacing as well, so I get to play with them, which is cool. But no, I do play, but I end up getting too angry, so I have to force myself to stop.
Will you be using your sim setup to get even more familiar with the Brands Hatch GP circuit before the final weekend? Will, let's ask you that.
Most definitely, yeah. I think what's been a recurring theme is using sort of either the simulator at Hyde or using this one at home to just get as much preparation in as possible. I think, especially when I was doing the brands earlier, I think me and my engineer got on iRacing together, and we ended up spending about 3 hours on together, just hacking about and just having fun, and you know, just trying to find sort of different lines and whatever. I know it can't be the most realistic exact interpretation, because obviously real life and sim can be slightly different all the time, but you know, we try and find every possible way to eke out as much of an advantage as we can.
Nice. I imagine you'll be doing the same as well then, Louis, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, like most of my preparation will be done at Carlin at the team factory. But saying that, I'll still do a bit at home on myself. I don't really like to spend too much time on it, because obviously, like Will said, it is different to real life. So I think sometimes you can pick up maybe bad habits by doing too much on the sim, because as soon as you get there in real life, it's always slightly different. But the sim is a very good tool to kind of like get yourself familiar with the track again, or if it's your first time going to a track, it's really cool to kind of learn the lines and learn the braking points and whatnot. But in terms of like the really small details, I leave that until practice to kind of figure that stuff out.
Yeah, you can't be smacking into the pit wall in real life, can you, Will?
It'd be good for me if you did.
Do you want me to take you with me? I'll get a really good reverse grid race, and we go into the last race around 1 point in the lead, and your starting pole. Just, you know, don't expect the unexpected. Well, now it's expected, but
You're going to get feisty at Paddock Hill.
if we make it,
unbelievable scenes. Yeah, well, so we started this podcast by saying you come over as being quite friendly and matey with each other, which, in fairness, the whole of the F4 grid is this year. It's lovely. that's going to really test a friendship. One of you two's got to win this championship, and that's going to put a friendship to test, isn't it? Louis?
It will do, but I think I think we both have like obviously quite a lot of respect for each other. So I think no matter what happens, we should still remain friends. Maybe not if he takes me out from the lead while I'm leading. But no, I think for the most part, no matter what happens, we should remain friends.
Do you agree with that, Will?
Yeah, I think, well, as racing drivers, we are the most two-faced people on earth. And yeah, I think this year has been a good representation of how two-faced the British F4 grid is. As soon as in the helmet, we don't care who each other are. We just want to beat each other. So, you know, I think as a championship goes, yeah, off the track, you can't do much. So, you know, I just try and accept what's happened and, you know, move on. And especially after like the races at Donington, I was trying to be as friendly as possible with Louis, especially now there's a 1 point difference going to the last round. You know, it's just whoever wins, the best man wins, and that's what it is. So you just, yeah, it is. It's just got to be chill and leave everything on track.
Yeah, well said, Will. Well said. Look, guys, whilst we've got you and you're still on speaking terms, we just got one more question to ask you both. Throughout the course of the BARC'ing Mad podcast, we are trying to build out the ultimate race circuit. So we're asking all of our guests to name their favourite corner of any circuit in the world. Doesn't have to be UK based. You don't even have to have driven it. You could have done it on the sim. So, Will, let's start with you. Which corner would you like to add to the ultimate racetrack?
Well, I'll probably try and go for a corner that probably hasn't been chosen yet. I think it's Imola turn 4, 5, 6. That sort of it's not a corner; it's a little section. I think, Louis, you know what I mean. After you go through the turn 1 chicane, you have the fast left, right, and then a hairpin left.
Yeah,
I quite like that section. I think it's quite technical, and when you get it right, you're proper on the edge and on the limit. So.
I'll tell you something, Will. Because you've asked for an entire section, if you win the championship, you can have the entire section. If not, you just get a corner of
it. All right. If we're going for, just for now, if we're going for a corner, is it Raskas hairpin at Monaco? I don't know.
I was literally going to say that.
The corner that you go around.
That's literally what I was going to say.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what then, Louis, you can both have that one. As there's two guests, you can both have, maybe we can chuck the Imola section in as well. I don't know what you think, Alan. Do you reckon we could put the Imola section in as well?
I think to prove the solidarity and unity between the top two drivers in the British F4 Championship, we should take one corner representing them both, and that's the compromise. So Raskas has got it, I think.
Well done. Well done. Guys, thank you so much for joining us.
Bringing people together.
Alan Hyde brings people together. In fact, that's a new podcast.
Bringing people together. There you go.
More on that later. Will, Louis, thank you so much for joining us. It really has been a pleasure talking to you guys. Of course, that final ROKiT F4 British Championship gets underway across the 7th and 8th of October at Brands Hatch. What a corker it is going to be. And I'm sure whatever happens, guys, there'll be handshakes and popping the lemonade after. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on the BARC'ing Mad podcast. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Well, Ian, sadly, that's all we've got time for on this edition of BARC'ing Mad. However, before we go, there's just enough time to tell you all about our partners, BP Fleet Solutions UK, who allow you to invest less on fuel and more on winning. Giving members and podcast listeners exclusive discounts on fuel, the BP Plus Fuel and Charge Card can be used at 3,400 locations, offering 6p per litre off both standard and ultimate grade fuels at 1,200 UK fuel stations. There are also significant savings to be made on electric charging as well.
Yeah, if you are a BARC member and want to find out more, then simply head to www.bp.com/BARC. If you need any help, hit the callback button on the website, and a member of the BP Fleet Solution UK they will be in contact with you.
Now, so you've been watching people kick a ball around a pitch for the last couple of weeks. I'm going to presume that you're not doing that, and you're coming back to a far more sensible sport and four-wheeled automotive action, because we're getting to that point in the season. I mean, we're staring down the barrel of the final few episodes of BARC'ing Mad this year, which means the championships are coming to a conclusion. You're going to be back on four wheels, aren't you?
Yes, well, both actually. I am going to be back on the football pitch, but I'm also back in motorsport action too. In fact, this Friday I'm at the Goodwood Revival, so very much looking forward to that.
Oh, nice! Have you got your clothing, your attire sorted?
Well, I am very fortunate that Goodwood provide a wardrobe for me. So thank you very much to Goodwood for that. So I do have a few vintage clothes knocking around, but Goodwood will very kindly be kitting me out. So yeah. They obviously take one look at me and think he doesn't know how to dress himself. We better do it for him.
No. What are you going to do with the hair?
I'm going to have to get it cut. I think I've lasted the entire podcast without a haircut. I think I'm going to have to get it cut. If
you went 1950s, you could have that in a rather smart quiff.
Do you know? I thought about that actually, getting the old, the old grease out. I'm sure there's plenty of engine oil knocking around. I could slick my hair back with.
I think that would work very well. As far as I'm concerned, this weekend, a very rare weekend off. And because the weather is nice, last minute decision, I'm going down for a couple of days in Devon. And I'm going to enjoy a bit of sunshine, gearing up for the conclusion of multiple seasons that are coming up, not least the BTCC in a couple of weeks after this weekend, and the conclusion of British Superbikes as well. So yeah, we've got to get ourselves fully recharged and ready to go.
So it sounds absolutely lovely, that. And I do have a nice time, won't you? But in case you didn't know,
I've never been to Devon.
Have you not?
I've never been. I've never been to Devon, no.
Well, there you go. It's a first for you then. Take lots of pictures, won't you? And who knows? Maybe we could show them on the next episode. If anybody wants to comment below and you want to see Alan's holiday snaps, then I'm sure we can get it arranged. But maybe not on the beach.
About a pair of Speedos? No, I don't think so. No, that's not going to happen.
Right, just a reminder to everybody, BARC'ing Mad is available to listen on all good podcast platforms, as well as the club's official YouTube channel. You can stay up to date with the latest news and reports from the BARC via the club website and its variety of social media channels.
There's plenty to look forward to over the coming weeks, with events at Silverstone and Snetterton on the horizon, and we'll be back to talk about it all, as well as much, much more in a fortnight's time. From Ian and from myself, it's goodbye from us.
Goodbye.